Hello, Facelandia. How you doing? Gonna just wait a second here and make sure everything's working as it should be. Lighting and camera. Make sure the connection's all right. We don't get any cutouts for a minute or two here. Everything looks to be all right. Oh, hello. Thank you for joining in. Thank you for joining in. All right, things look like they're working. Hello, David. Thanks for joining. Must be cool in Arizona this time of year. Okay. All right, let's get started. Okay, so the camera's a little bit high. Let's just point it down a touch. Thank you for your patience. There we go. A touch there. There we go. Great. Excellent. All right, so welcome to day 23 of our 30-day Unleash the Dragon Challenge. And thank you again for being here and joining. It's a delight, it's a pleasure. It's just so much fun to be doing this, and I'm really happy to have the privilege of sharing all this with you. I just realized I didn't plug in the battery. Let's do that real quick. Okay, so let's just do this and do that. Excellent. Okay, great. So today what we're going to be doing is getting into Sub-Earth Dragon Yoga. We're going to revisit the bow. We're going to delve in a little bit deeper into what Sub-Earth means in terms of symbolism, and also how you can apply the Sub-Earth Dragon Yoga, the Sub-Earth Dragon during this period of sheltering in place, and how you can keep it in mind. For when we come out of sheltering in place and we start coming back together as individuals and communities to make the changes that are most likely going to be coming down the pike for us, that we're going to be encountering as we go to create the new world that we are clearly going to be needing to create. So let's get into it. All right. So let's first start off shaking, rattling, and rolling. So breathing into the space between the bones of your foot as you rattle your foot around. Bring the leg in front of you, behind you, and feel the space between the bones. Now, the exercise is the same. You can just focus on it differently for the different animals. And right now we're focusing on it in a Python kind of way because we're going to be doing sub-earth. So we're focusing on the space between the bones. And just loosening up the skeleton. Focus on the joint spaces as though you're trying to increase the space, as though you're trying to inject WD-40 between the bones into the joints between your bones. Good. And let the vibration travel up the body. Good. Excellent. And other foot. Shake, rattle, and roll. Feel breath going into the space between the joints. Get your shin bone shaken. Stir the cauldron with your shin bone in one direction and the other. Good. And then shaking the thigh bones, shaking the thigh off of your skeleton. Good. Up into the hips. Keep relaxing and loosening the rest of your body. And chubby checkers, drop down, coming on up, shake. Good. Good. Excellent. And let's take off my watch. And just with the hand, shaking and loosening up the hand, letting that come up into the forearm, up into the upper arm, up into the shoulder. Good, and the other arm. Hand, forearm, upper arm, shoulder, both. And let that travel up the neck, into the face, the jaw. Good. Excellent. And then Keep your arms going while you bend in the knees. Sorry, bend one knee and then the other. Good. I just added the arms today just for the sheer joy of it. There you go. And then both knees. Keep rattling. A little bit of shake in the hands. And we'll do the flicking exercise. And one more time, a little bit quicker. And stand. Feel what your body feels like. Drop any tension that you don't need. And with the arms spiraling, drop. Good, other direction. Good, other arm. And other direction. Good, both arms in opposite direction. And reverse direction. Good. And relax, rest, let your arms come down by the side. Feel what your body feels like. And I'm just going to check in with the scroll here. Make sure everything's all right. Hello, Pamela. Thank you for joining. Yay. What's behind the curtain? Maria. Hello. A prize just for you. Okay. And hello, Malachi. And everybody else? Good. Hello. Good. Excellent. Everything is going well? Okay. All right. So that's a little bit, that's the warm-up. Let's do the basic breaths and review the dragon's womb, the cocoon, and the golden spiral. These are great exercises to do to center in, and they mentally prepare you for whatever kind of workout you're going to do, and they just make you receptive to information coming in, and also for information that's already in. They prep you to be aware of yourself interoceptively as well as perceptively outwardly, exteroceptively, whatever. Anyway, let's go. Let's do the basic breathing. So again, you're drawing energy in, earth and water through the feet. Energy comes up the legs, meet at the groin, and continues going up. Fire and air coming in through the fingertips, up the arms, meet at the collarbone, where they meets the energy coming up from the legs, and on all together, all elements together, up through the crown of the head, up into the sun, energize, purify, and then bring it back down. And then you send the energy back out the way it came in, or flip the exit to the entrance. So earth and water out the hands and fingers, fire and air out the feet. Depends on what you're working on. So let's get into it. And again, as the energy is passing through, you take what you need. And it's not even that you have to take it, but you just allow for the elements that you need to be picked up along the way as you're sending that energy down through your body. You sort of pick a little bit, you help yourself to a little bit of it as it's passing through. Okay, so we'll do the basic breaths, and we'll also add the cocoon and the spiral to it. Should we do that now? And we'll do it in a second. Let's warm up first. And bending in your knees, letting your chest cave in. Relax. Tune into the elements. Yeah, we'll add the cocoon and the spiral in a second. Let's do this first. And breathing in. Fill the lower back, middle back, upper back with breath. Send the elements up into the skies, into the heavens, into the sun. Hold. Then as you exhale, emptying a breath from the top down, sending it back where it came from. Emptying out to the last drop of breath. And breathing in. One last time, breathing in. Lower back, middle back, upper back, lower torso, middle torso, upper torso. And empty out. Good. Cleansing breath, 7 forced short out breaths. Filling in the same way. Send the energy up. And then as you exhale, send it down. One more time. Good. And relax, breathe in. And rejuvenation breath. And breathing in, finger tap. Use the sound, the vibration from your finger tapping as an ultrasound massage, dislodging any stuck tension. Hold the breath, cup the palms. good. Feel your body. Good. And then prana shake. So again, breathing in, lower back, middle back, upper back, lower torso, middle torso, upper torso. Draw energy into your body. Close the circuits of energy. And then shake. Shake the cerebral spinal fluid. And then exhale. And stand, feel your body. Feel how you feel now compared to when you first started. And let's do the visualization for the cocoon and for the spiral. I'm just thinking if there's any other additional information to add. You know, if you have questions, feel free to post them in the comments. I may not get to them right now, but I will respond to them later, and that would be really great to do. So I'm happy to do that. So if you have any questions about these basic breaths, type them in now, and I'll respond to them when I can later tonight, this afternoon, and I'll just check to make sure everything's okay here. Anything I've missed? No. Hello, Paula. Nice to see you. And thank you for being super excited. So am I. Hello, Dorothy. All right, excellent. All right. A couple of words just about these basic breaths. Yes, we've been doing them pretty regularly, and I've been doing it in the little space here. They are sweet when you get to do them outside in nature. So the original instructions that I got for doing the basic breathing was do it 4 times a day, which is a thing in and of itself, and that can be really intense. But also do it, twice in the daytime, twice at night. And the idea is that your body responds differently, and the sun and the moon have different kinds of influences on you as you do that exercise. And just doing it out in nature, period, is just wonderful. It's a completely different experience, and you just feel a lot more connected. So I wanted to put that out. All right, so that's let's get into the cocoon and the spiral. So taking a moment, you've visualized energy flowing up and down. Now you visualize a ball of energy 6 feet below your feet into the ground, and you gather energy there. And you visualize a thread of energy spiraling around your body as it spirals around you in one direction, and it's about your arm's length away, and it reaches a ball of energy 6 feet above your head, and the lines connect. And just for a moment, visualize that spiral around your body in one direction as a field that you magnetize so that it draws in things that you need and keeps out things that you don't need. And then you visualize another thread of energy spiraling upwards around your body, interweaving and creating a mesh with the other thread. And you just, you can use your hands too, by the way, like where your hands go, a lot of attentional resources are allocated to the location that your hands are in. And that's what energy work is attention work. It's more than just that, but it's a starting point. And so placing your hands where you may have like little blank spots can be helpful in the visualization, making the stuff real. And you infuse the cocoon, the dragon's womb, with that intention of drawing in things that you need, insulating, keeping inside, keeping the container for the things that you need, and keeping out the things that you don't need that aren't, or the things that simply aren't good for you. So bring in the things that are good for you, keep the things that are bad for you out. That can be a bit simplistic, but you get the idea. So take a moment, find yourself in the cocoon, try to visualize it fully, completely, without any blank spots, from the bottom up to the top. And you can send like a couple of pulses of energy through it, and then when you've done that, let it go. It's kind of like, rolling a ball down a hill. Like you bring the ball to the top of the hill, and then you start it rolling, and then you let it do its thing. So you've started the ball rolling, you've started the energy circuits, and now let it do its thing. And now change your focus to the golden spiral. So there's, again, from the ball below your feet to the ball above your head, you have a corkscrew of energy going up. It's already spinning, and it's like the car wash spinner. It's just clearing stuff off as it spins. And as you inhale, it's going to have like a particular size. It starts off at a particular size, and as you inhale, that enlarges it. When you exhale, keep it at that new increased size, and then inhale again, it gets larger, keep it at that new size, inhale again, it gets larger, until it's so large that it's brushing against the inside of the cocoon. And again, it's just spinning out, spinning away any tension, any negative energy that you don't need, any stuck energy that's just hampering you. It just kicks it all out. Okay. And so, visualizing it. Feel it spinning. Imagine the spinning. Visualization and energy work, it's fake it till you make it. There is something there, but you have to help yourself along the way. So I'm increasing it, and I'm feeling it front, back, side to side, top and bottom. And then as I exhale, I keep it at that new large size. As it spins, clearing out tension. I increase it again. I exhale, I increase it again. It's about the size of my body, and it's spinning. Making it larger. It's like a full armor now. Armor's a bit whatever, but you get the idea. Exhaling, keeping it at that size. And then I'm going to make it larger now, and it's going to be brushing up against the inside of the cocoon. Spinning. I have tension here at the back of my neck, so I'm trying to relax that. Good. And fill up, and then as you exhale, bring the golden spiral in, back to its original size, and still spinning, and feel the buffed cocoon sparkling and pristine. That's it. Good. And now feel those two energy systems, and then let them go. It's like pushing the ball off of the hill. You've given it energy, now let it do its thing. And just feel that. Feel what you feel now. Okay? And what we're going to do is we're going to do the panther bow and the python bow, and just check in with the cocoon, check in with the golden spiral, and especially with the cocoon, what can you bring in that feeds your panther? What does your panther need? Again, how can you get more in tune and, for lack of a better word, empower your own instinct, your own subconscious, your own sensuality, your own relationship to your fear? How can you empower the centers at the tip of the tailbone, the pubic bone, the physical center, the back of the brainstem, and of course, more importantly than those energy centers, the qualities of intelligence that those centers symbolically represent. So how can you use the cocoon to bring good food in? Okay? So let's take a moment, feel the tendons and ligaments. Feel the cocoon. What is going to feed your tendons and ligaments? Feel the tip of your tailbone. Feel the cocoon. What's going to feed the tip of the tailbone? The groin center, the center of your sensuality and sexuality. Feel the cocoon. What's going to bring in good food? What's going to keep bad stuff, bad food out? Junk food. Junk food's better. All right. Breathe in, exhale. Your physical center, your Manipura, your Dantian, your Hara. What's going to bring in good food? What's going to keep the junk food out? Feel the cocoon, drawing in good food, keeping junk food out. And again, then into your brainstem, your connection to your ancestral memory, your instincts for survival, your ability to respond and react in fight or flight. What's going to feed it? And what detractions are you going to keep away? Good. And let's do the bow. So you've still got that sense of the cocoon. You're still bringing that, we're going to bring in viscous energy from the earth. We're going to draw in energy through the tendons and ligaments. And as we exhale, we're going to deepen the yin side of the cups of the joints. Good. And exhale. And triangles. Breathe into the groin, the pubic bone, the physical center. Sorry. Now you exhale and send energy up into the physical center. And stand. Feel your tendons and ligaments. Good. Let's do a little bit of tendon and ligament exercise. And dropping down into your horse stance, just legs apart. You know, just as if you're trotting on a horse. You don't have to be technically perfect. Whatever works for you. Just feel like your legs are like the pillars in a Roman arch, and feel like your pubic bone is the keystone arch. The more weight that you place, the more you let your chest relax and fall onto your pubic bone, the stronger you make your pillars. That should be the idea. If you're feeling a little bit of shearing in the knees, a usual safe bet to do is think of the melon, spin the melon without shifting your hips forward. So keep your hips where they are and just rotate the melon. And another way of thinking about it is you're lifting your pubic bone up to your sternum and you're pressing your belly button into your spine. And that will usually get you the correction. And it's very often small. And what it should feel like is that there's a stool leg, a third leg of a stool that's right at your tailbone, going straight down to the ground, and you're sitting on it. And you should feel slightly more pressure on the heels if you're trying to correct, a little bit more on the heels than you usually do. And so that's your starting position. And when you get there, you know, if it feels good, you can trot, bounce on yourself. And it should feel like you could do this all day, right? Because you're using the structure of the tensile structure of your connective tissue of your tendons and ligaments. Okay, and so find that, and then, maybe I'll do this slightly on an angle, there you go, and coming up. I'm coming up on the balls of my feet. If that's too much for you, just keep your feet flat on the ground. Just so that, just a little direction is when I come up on the balls of my feet, I don't rise. So I'm not doing this. My legs shift, but my head stays at the same height. Good. Tensile resistance. Have I been skipping a couple of moves? I must have. I think I have. Sorry. I was talking, so I think I skipped a couple of moves there. Good. And you're pumping energy into the tendons and ligaments, into your groin. Good. And settle on yourself. Feel your tendons and ligaments relax and release energy. Good. Black Panther. And let's do, we could do the sideways one. So come down, and before, this is not that critical. It's nice if you're into details. Your feet are forward on the first one. On the second one, your feet are turned out. It's kind of like a very wide second position in dance. Shout out to the dancers. So again, that you have that rope being pulled down at the back, which then creates a chain reaction that lifts your arm up. And then you have another rope being pulled through your front leg, which then pulls you down and allows you to come forward. So 1, 2, pounce, come down, glide, and 1, 2, pounce, come down, and glide. Good. And one last one. And good. And come on up. Now that's the Panther. All right, so, okay, let's move into Python. So we're saying hello to the two animals of the sub-earth dragon before we get into the bow of the sub-earth dragon, and we talk a little bit more about its textures and the philosophy. Okay, so Python. Feel the space between the bones, breathing in, exhaling from the space between the bones, even the fused bones of the pelvis and the skull. Feel the small little otoliths, the small little bones in your ear, the small little bone of the hyoid, at your throat. Good. And feel your connection to the unconscious, subconscious, and conscious mind. Feel your connection to your breath. Feel your connection to the layers of the earth. Good. And dropping down, breathing in. Roll the melons, the weights of the catapult, raise your arms, and pack energy into your bone. And drop down. And good. And one more time. Drop. And just come a bit closer here. And feel the triangles from the soles of the feet up to the groin. Breathe into the lower triangle. Upper triangle, tips of the fingers to the top of the head. Breathe in deep. And then exhale, top triangle. Settle it down on the bottom triangle. Settle the bottom triangle onto the earth. You are now a cross between an immovable Egyptian pyramid and a rocket ship. All right, great. All right. And let me just check the notes here, see if everything's okay. Ooh. Robin, hello. Nice to see you. You're welcome, Maria. She wanted to know what was behind the curtain. Nothing. Surprise. Whoops. Shoot. There we go. And I like the cocoon. Maria's asking a question. I like the cocoon and golden spiral exercises. Which way are the spirals spinning? So the quick answer is whatever works naturally for you. And in some traditions, it spirals right to left for males and left to right for females. And there's always individual variations. So if you go in a particular direction and it works for you, go with that. Okay, great. Thanks for asking. Okay, cool. All right, so now let's get into the Sub-Earth Dragon Bow. Yesterday we talked about different approaches of doing the dragon bows. You have the two animals, and you can alternate, do one animal and then the other fully, and then the alternation creates a tension and a space, for lack of a better word, that primes you, that gets you ready to handle the integration of both those extreme opposite sides of yourself. And then there is the outside-inside approach, where you feel like, yes, you have one animal on the outside for the bow that you're doing. So it starts off with python, so the python is on my outside. So I kind of feel like my arms, the skeleton of my arms and my legs are doing their thing. And even like the rib cage is python-y. But then on the inside, I have panther. So it's like this surreptitious little black cat is there in my organs or something deeper in, and is being a part, is making itself a part of the bow as a whole. And then when I finish the python, and then I'm doing panther, now it's panther on the outside. I'm focusing on the tendons and ligaments. But but on the inside, there's a flavor of python. It's as if my python is observing and aware and tracking my panther. So it's both, with a little bit more of one than the other, or one on the outside, one on the inside is how I like to think about it. For those of you who are martial artists, so Maria is a very talented Aikidoist. You sometimes encounter in martial arts this sort of concept of superficial versus deep breathing or striking. So you can have somebody who's like a boxer, and they throw a punch and it looks fast, it looks hard, and when it hits, it stings. And what they've done is that it's legit, it's hitting the outer shell. And then you have people who just give like, boom, a strike, and it sends a shudder. It goes into you. And I've had this experience. I've done it on people when I was practicing Python a lot. I'd give like a little strike, like boom, like that. And people would drop down a little bit. And what they would describe is that it's as if the force of the hit was like a pinball, and it like zigged and zagged as it went down their body. It didn't just like go through. And so that's it's a deep layer strike. It's a deeper layer strike. Sorry, something happened here with the lighting. Let's try this. Maybe not. Okay, we'll find out. So that's part. So there's application. There's a root to the visualization. It's not just so much fluff and imagination. There's a real purpose behind it, and it's just tapping into deeper layers of your body for various reasons, for letting go of pain, for letting go of tension, for tapping into information or intelligence and responsiveness, power, etc. Okay, so those are the two approaches. Let's do the bow. So it's Python first, and then Panther second, and then triangle, triangle, and that's one full cycle. All right, take a moment, check in with yourself, find the Python, and have the Panther waiting on deck. Batter up. All right, find your Python. Let's do it alternation style. So have the Panther waiting on deck, and find your Python, and dropping down, and here's the Panther now, inhaling, and triangle, and that's one bow. I'll talk it a little bit more through it here. Dropping down, you're touching the base with the unconscious, subconscious, conscious mind. You're breathing in through all the interconnections and layers of the earth. You're finding your breath. You're tracking all of your observations, all of your sensory awareness. You're interpreting and finding patterns and meaning. And then you take all of that meaning and you pack it into your bones and exhale. And then you express that bow, you express that energy. The Python has to manifest something. And at the end of manifestation, at the end of analysis, you bring in the Panther, which is not analysis. It doesn't do any analysis at all. It's sensory awareness, it's sensuality, it's direct response and experience. And then you exhale. And then you bring the energy up into the groin, flip the energy at the body, and return one more time. I'll try and describe it more. And breathing in, feeling the weight of your observations, feeling the weight of layers of understanding, and bring that energy into the bones, and then you manifest and express that understanding, and then you go from that extreme to the other extreme of just reacting, responding, sensing, and enjoying. It's without agenda. And breathing in deep, and exhaling. Good. And standing. Okay, so I have been wrestling a lot with how to best explain the sub-earth dragon, and there's a couple of ways, there's a couple of stories that things I can speak to. First of all, when Constantine first taught us this work, the word that he used for Python was manipulation. And it was always in the sense not of like being a manipulative psychopath, but in the sense of being adroit, being able to manage. Deftness, dexterity, another way, and also the mind, and it's also very much like research methods. And I know I said this earlier, but it's investigative, it's deliberative, it's methodical. So whatever, we could go into a whole thing about research methods, but basically you have something that you have a criteria for what you're looking for. You're explicit about what you're going to observe, what you're going to look for, and you measure it. And even before you do, and what you do is that you look at the results and you interpret the results according to preset predictions and expectations of how you will interpret a certain set of outcomes. So that, in a nutshell, that's research. And this is how the Python mind works. At a very simple Western, in a very simple lens. And that was how Constantine thought of the Python mind. And of course, it's deeper than that as well. And it came back always to manipulation. And that was the thing, was that you can interpret all of these things, but what separates, let's say, a leopard scientist from a Python scientist is that the leopard scientist is more theoretical, can find the result, and then I'm done with that. That's cool, let's move on. With the Python, they find the result, and then they have to do something with it. They not only come up with the interpretation, but then have to work the interpretation for real practical ends. And when I went in, right, so they come up with an interpretation and then they have to implement the interpretation. So the story that I want to tell from my own personal experience is about a sort of cognitive phenomenon, a cognitive ability that we have as people, which neuroscientists talk about as the interpreter. And the interpreter is basically this sort of compulsion that we have to impose meaning on otherwise random patterns. And I'll just give you an example. It was research that I had done years ago, back in '99 and 2000, on the interpreter. And what we would do is that we would give people lists of words. Then they were either people-related words, doctor, nurse, teacher, or animal-related words, snake, gorilla, anteater. And all they had to do was press a button for the category they thought was going to show up next. So, if they thought the next word was going to be a person-related word, they pressed one button and it would be aardvark or nurse. And if they thought an animal-related word would pop up, like dog, they would press another button and either, anteater or fireman would pop up. And we kept track of how many times they guessed correctly. It's not a psychic exercise. It's not that. Don't think that. What happens with normal human beings is that they get into what's called frequency matching. That is, if you have a 50-50 split between people words and animal words, people guess 50% of the time animal and 50% of the time human word. The pattern doesn't matter. Like, they don't get, it's the number of times they get it right isn't the point. It's just the number of times they make a guess. And what happens that's really cool is that if you change the ratio, if it's 60-40, people match that frequency. They'll guess 60% of the time a human word and guess 40% of the time an animal word. If the ratio is 70-30, same thing, they match the frequency. 90-10, how many, like you would think that they would get really bored doing this, but they don't. They persist. So you give a person like 100 trials, you know, maybe after, you would think after like 20 trials of 90-10, most of the time it's a human word. It's 90% of the time it's a human word, 10% of the time it's an animal word. You would figure after a while you just keep pressing human, the human button. You would do what's called maximizing. But humans don't do that. After 100 trials, you keep trying to match the frequency. After 200 trials, 500, 900, we gave people 1,500 trials. And even after 1,500 trials, where words were 90% of the time human and 10% of the time animal related, people kept trying to match, kept trying to guess when the animal word would pop up instead of just always pressing 90, instead of always pressing the human button. And you'd ask them, you know, did you notice a pattern? Like we'd ask people, did you notice a pattern? And people would come up with all sorts of algorithms that would make Google jealous. So they'd say, oh yeah, if it was like doctor and then an animal and then a nurse, then 3 words later it would be fireman. And of course, the words were just presented randomly. But people would impose a pattern on this otherwise random series of words. So this is the interpreter in action. And for me, coming across the interpreter was like an important insight to Python. It was it was really neat. It sort of gave an anchor and a reference to what this part of our mind is about. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is that it's again why I'm doing the challenge, is as we prepare and as we deal with the current situation and the stress of sheltering in place, and as the situation continues to evolve, one of the best things that you can do is at least be aware of your own automaticity in interpreting events in the world around you. Being able to track your interpreter, being able to notice your Python on automatic pilot. Because it's always going to do that. So if you're just like mind wandering, if you're just like, if you're just noticing, if you're just receiving stimulus and you're not deliberately organizing and interpreting, your interpreter is just going to run amok. But if you practice Python and you try to systematically, methodically observe what you're looking at, and you try to remove bias, you try to have a objective stance and attitude to what you're observing, the same way you would try to be objective in running an experiment, then you're feeding, those same stimulus is then feeding your Python good food, if you will. And that's why I wanted to do this whole challenge. And it's one thing to talk about this in a sort of like lecture-like format, and it's an idea, it sticks with you, and maybe you remember it later. But when you have an embodied practice where you have a bow or a particular way of breathing, that you connect to an attitude, that you connect to an idea you're trying to remember, that trinity, bodily awareness and mindful awareness and breath, I find that more potent. It helps me stay more grounded. So I wanted to share that with you. So that's one of the aspects of the Python. Okay, and so that interpreter quality, it's language, it's thought based. And then you have the Panther, and it doesn't care about words. It doesn't care about interpretation. It's about sensory experience, immediate sensory experience that you are reacting and responding to. So the two extremes there are like the impulsivity and the deliberativeness. So let's do it again. Let's do the bow again. And let's do it, it doesn't really matter if you want to do it one after the other. If that makes sense to you, do that. If you want to do it, the inside, outside kind of version, do that. But try and feel that dichotomy or the balance on the spectrum of impulsivity and deliberativeness. Try and feel both those as you do the bow. Try and promote both. Okay, so let's do the Sub-Earth Dragon bow one more time. And breathing in deep. Feel the python, the deliberativeness, that feeling of knowing something deep in your bones. And pack that energy into you. And now bring the impulsivity in. And triangle, and triangle. One more time, let's take a step back, and breathing in deep. And triangle, and triangle. I'm going to do it now. I mean, it's going to look the same on the outside, but I'm going to do it with a sort of shift of outside, inside. So I'm going to have like more of a predominant feeling of deliberative python, stalking, hunting. And on the inside, there's going to be a little tingle of panther. And then when I do panther, it's going to be like wild and crazy with a little tinge of python's deliberativeness. All right? And exhale. And then stand. Feel the mudras, have the mudras if you remember them, and just feel the balance, the complementarity, the complementarity of that impulsivity, of the panther, its sensuousness, with the deliberative, methodical attention of the python. Good. And release. Okay, that's a little bit about the python and the sub-earth. And again, when you do the bow, you're drawing in on the textures that reaffirm the sub-earth dragon yoga. I'm just going to check this notes here, make sure everything's okay. So David Leonard's asking a question. So Python is involved in pattern recognition? Yes. Is it also involved in confirmation bias? That's a lazy Python. So confirmation bias basically is you look for things that reaffirm your pre-existing conclusion, and that's it's like a dense tiger using its own python to enforce its own conviction. It's just that, yeah. So each of the animals has a healthy aspect or interpretation and an unhealthy aspect and interpretation, and I haven't really talked about that. So let's talk about that now. Do we have time? How are we doing for time? Yeah, we're kind of over time, but what the hell, it's important. Okay, so each of the animals has a way of being when it's healthy and a way of being and behaving when it's unhealthy. So tiger, when it's healthy, is a good king, a good cop. You know, they have a physically powerful body. They have a clear analytical mind, and they have a just-oriented heart that is courageous and compassionate. And when they see something that, as somebody who has a, legitimate need, they go and help. They give praise, they give credit where credit is due. There's a beautiful, simple honesty to them. And when tiger is unhealthy, it'll be crushed emotionally, and they can be a bully, like guess who? They can be like all head, but not engaging their hearts. Or they can have a fantastic mind and a fantastic heart, but withered away body. But usually a tiger that is unhealthy, usually they take all of that power and emotional raw energy and turn it towards bullying. Panther, it's like a great daredevil, the keeper of your tribe's magic, the keeper of the story. I don't know about so much the stories, but when they are well aligned, they are incredibly connected to the earth. They are really cohesive for a tribe. When they are unhealthy, that rush for adrenaline turns them into junkies, whether it's adrenaline junkie, coke junkie, sex anonymous junkie, whatever it is. There's an addictive quality to them, and they're also very extreme in their relationships. Python, when it's healthy, is like a kind of like a Sherlock Holmes, figuring everything out and avoiding the spotlight. When a python is unhealthy, they are Machiavellian and psychopathic. They are really great manipulators, and they manipulate for their own ends. Boa can be a fantastic therapist, like listening and empathizing, and as you are witnessed and empathized with, it releases your own tension. But when a boa is unhealthy, it collapses in on itself, and it's like it's depressed. So with just going back, and we can talk about the cobra and the leopard later, but just going back to what you're saying, confirmation bias is basically intellectual laziness on the part of a tiger who may not care, or on a python who's not trying to think. Okay, so that's a great question, and okay, that's it. All right, so hopefully I haven't talked your ears off. And what else was I going to say? So I wanted to talk a little bit about the dragon. There's a kind of a structure that I'm following with the dragons, and it's informed by therapy in psychology. Not so much therapy, but basically it's informed by psychology. In psychology, like there's a lot of different ways of approaching, therapy. And the way that I often explain it to my students is, there's looking at your past and your history. So this is more like psychodynamics. So this is Freud and Jung. And the way that the therapy works is that you try to, you change the person from the inside out. So you get them talking about their experiences from childhood, and you get them to recognize or reorganize how they interpret the world. And when you change how they interpret and perceive the world, their behavior changes. So you change them from the inside first, and then that changes the outside later. Then there is like cognitive behavior therapy, where it's like you don't give a damn what your personal history and story are, just change your behaviors, and that'll most likely change you on the inside as well. So it's outside in. And then there's humanistic psychology, which is go out and stay out. Make changes on the outside and just keep going. And it's about how to attain your own full potential. And in a really very simple way, in a broad outline, those three perspectives in psychology match up really nicely with the three main dragons that we're going to work with. And so sub-earth dragon is the python and the panther. This is subterranean. This is the subconscious, the unconscious realm. This is this is the part of you that reacts to things not really understanding why. And that can be good. Sometimes it helps you be fast in response to things. If you've had training, if you've had experience, it can be really great. If you haven't had experience, if you hadn't had a chance to turn your reactions into responses, then it can be a little bit, it can be non-ideal. But this is so that the sub-earth dragon is the stuff that's in the basement of your psyche. And why is this important? So again, the reason why I wanted to do the challenge was that I thought that these animals and these dragons could provide really great tools for, for when we get out and, for encountering the kinds of changes that we're going to need to make when we come out of the situation. And what the sub-earth dragon animals are really good for is just helping define that turf of problems that are about you and your past and your history. One of the things that Carl Jung said is that the best thing that you can do for politics and international relations is stop projecting your own shadow onto other people. And that's great advice for everybody. So when you, especially in this day and age with social media, it's really easy to see animosity aimed at people of a different group. And you can think like a tiger and like, what kind of actions can I take to stop that? You can take a perspective like a leopard and think of the socioeconomic conditions and the trends and the immigration and the globalization that led to this particular encounter. But you can also approach it from the perspective of the panther and the python that would ask the question, what is it in their personal lives that's giving them the psychological energy to generate that much hate in the direction of that particular group of people? You can, and that applies for people on all sides of the spectrum. It doesn't matter. So you could ask that of a clan member, excuse me, or you could just as easily ask that of somebody in San Francisco who is righteously denouncing the clan member. What is it about that person's psyche that is allowing them to project that much hate on the haters, if you will? That's the kind of work that really fits in well in the house of the sub-earth. And what we're going to do is we're going to visit the other dragons and the other approaches. And I guess just to give a brief outline, so for tiger and boa, this is more like cognitive behavioral. It's like, what's the objective behavior? What are your thoughts, your feelings, and the consequences? And that fits in with the earth dragon. And then with the celestial dragon, it's humanistic with a touch of Tibetan Buddhism. And we'll talk about those when we get there. So also with sub-earth, so yes, psychodynamic. It's about being a careful interpreter of the forces in your past that are guiding you or nudging you in a particular direction in your thinking and in your feeling, in your assumptions. And it also, in this modern day and age, it can also be molecular genetics. It can also be understanding your genetic makeup. So the stuff that you've inherited in your genes from your evolutionary history. And so those are the things that fall in the sub-earth domain. And we're not going to deal so much with the molecular genetics, but we'll talk a little bit more about things that steps, interventions, approaches that you can take to to help you as you work through problems and challenges that you can frame as being, your sub-earth dragon approach or strategy. So we'll talk a little bit more about that as we move forward. but I just wanted to give you like a sort of theoretical outline. Okay, so just going back to one of the questions here, confirmation bias. We talked earlier about, the shadow of the panther, and, reactions that you have to your own shadow, to somebody who represents your shadow. So we talked about that, and that kind of work would be the first step, like sitting down and writing out things that you can identify as automatic assumptions that you have about certain kinds of people. And doing that sort of brings what's in your subconscious into onto your consciousness screen. And then you can do Python work, which is to try and observe every time those thoughts or feelings arise. What are the circumstances? And what you do is that you keep doing that kind of work, keep feeling for your shadow, keep noticing the circumstances when the shadow arises. And as you go back and forth between that, you're basically doing sub-earth dragon kind of inner work, where you're recognizing a deeper underlying pattern in your unconscious and in your subconscious, and you don't try to fix it. So that's the other thing about all of this. You don't try and change it, you just observe it. Breathe, relax, which is why all this work is so useful, and just observe it without trying to change it. Okay, so that's a lot. We'll stop there, and let's do 3 boa bows and wrap it up. Okay, so settling down, relaxing, releasing any tension, and dropping down. Breathe in deep. Hug the world. Bring it in, and exhale. And drop down. Breathe in deep. Relax, surrender. Bring in the breath. Exhale, release. One last one, and drop down. Bring it in, exhale, release. And there you go. Releasing to neutral. So thank you very much for being here. And it's always a pleasure, always an honor. Thanks for taking the time. And tomorrow the class will either be earlier, like around 3, or later, like around 7:30 or so, 7 o'clock or so. I'm not going to know until later tomorrow, and then I'll make an announcement in the comments. So just keep an eye out for it. But as usual, all of these videos get saved. So if you missed the live stream, hey, don't worry. You can just come back to the page, and you'll find the class later on, so you can look at it. Thanks a lot for being here. Have a great day, and I'll see you tomorrow, one way or the other, one time or the other. Bye for now.